Yeah, this video you're about to see shows that wreck, the bridge collapsing after a ship lost control.
At 1:29 in the morning on March 26, 2024, a loose wire brought down an American bridge. A 985-foot container ship, nearly as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall, lost power in the middle of Baltimore's harbor. 60 seconds later, it struck a bridge pier at full drift. The Francis Scott Key Bridge, 1.6 miles of steel, standing since 1977, collapsed in seconds. 6 road workers filling potholes on the night shift never made it off. And the wreckage didn't just fall into the water. It fell across the only shipping channel into one of America's most important ports and sealed it shut. So how does one ship and one loose wire paralyze an entire American port? And why is fixing it now costing $5 billion and taking longer than building the original bridge? Here's what most people missed while watching the collapse footage on repeat. The Port of Baltimore isn't just any port. For 13 straight years, it was America's #1 gateway for cars and light trucks, farm equipment, construction machinery, coal. When that channel closed, the shutdown didn't stay in Baltimore. It rippled through supply chains across the entire country, and the damage went beyond the shutdown itself. While Baltimore's channel sat blocked, a small port in Georgia, Brunswick, absorbed the diverted cargo and took the #1 crown Baltimore had held for over a decade. The collapse didn't just close a port for 11 weeks. It handed Baltimore's biggest title to a rival. And Baltimore still hasn't taken it back. 50,000 tons of twisted steel and concrete, roughly 5 Eiffel Towers worth, lay across the channel. Every day it stayed there, cargo ships diverted to other ports, dock workers sat idle, and businesses that depended on bridge traffic watched their customers disappear overnight. It took 11 weeks of around-the-clock salvage work just to fully reopen the channel. But reopening the port was the easy part, because now America has to rebuild the bridge itself. And that project has already tripled in cost, lost its contractor, and slipped years behind schedule, before main construction has even begun. To understand why this collapse happened, and why the rebuild is so hard, you need to understand what changed between 1977 and today. When the Key Bridge opened, the container ships passing under it were a fraction of the size they are now. Over the following decades, cargo ships grew into floating steel cities. The Dolly alone weighed over 100,000 tons fully loaded. The bridge never grew with them. Its piers stood in the water, protected by systems designed for the ships of the 1970s. And here's the part that should have been a scandal before the collapse, not after. Federal investigators later found the bridge's risk of catastrophic collapse from a ship strike was almost 30 times above the acceptable threshold. And the state had never run the vulnerability assessment that would have revealed it. The warning signs existed. In 1980, a ship strike collapsed the Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Florida, killing 35 people. Bridge codes changed. Pier protection standards were written. But the Key Bridge was already built, and for over 40 years, it stood in the path of ever larger ships, protected by almost nothing. The collapse wasn't a freak accident. It was a countdown that finally hit zero. Now here's why the rebuild is one of the hardest bridge projects in America. First, you can't just rebuild what was there. Federal law won't allow it. The new bridge has to clear today's codes. Taller, so bigger ships pass beneath it. Wider shoulders. And most expensive of all, a pier protection system strong enough to survive a hit from a modern megaship. The very thing the old bridge never had. Second, the location. The new bridge has to rise directly over a live federal shipping channel, the same channel feeding the port. And after 11 weeks of closure nearly broke the region's economy once, shutting it down again isn't an option. Every pile, every pier, every crane movement has to happen, while some of the largest ships in the world keep sailing through. Third, the money. 2 weeks after the collapse, Maryland estimated the rebuild at under $2 billion, opening in 2028. By late 2025, that estimate had more than doubled, $4.3 to $5.2 billion, opening pushed to late 2030. Material costs had exploded, and the pier protection system alone turned out to be a project within the project. And then, in April 2026, it got worse. The state fired its own contractor. Kiewit, the firm that designed the bridge, couldn't agree with Maryland on a construction price. Officials called the bid unacceptably high. Some reports put the asking price at up to $9 billion, nearly 5 times the original estimate for the entire project. By then, Kiewit had placed about 30 pilings. The finished bridge needs nearly 1,000. So what does a bridge built for the age of megaships actually look like? The answer is a cable-stayed design. Over 2 miles long, its deck hung from towers by fans of steel cables. Taller than the old bridge with more clearance for the ships of the next 50 years. Not the last 50. Below the waterline is where the real lesson of the collapse gets built in. Nearly 1,000 pilings driven into the bed of the Patapsco River. And around the main piers, a fortress of protection, massive structures designed to catch, deflect, or absorb a runaway ship before it ever touches the bridge itself. The old bridge fell because its piers were exposed. The new one is being designed so that a ship the size of the Daily simply can't reach them. To build all of this over a live channel, crews are constructing temporary trestles from both shores. Steel work platforms stretching out over the water, so equipment and materials can reach the pier sites without blocking ship traffic below. And despite everything going wrong above the surface, the engineering itself has moved fast. The design team hit 70% completion in 14 months, a milestone that on comparable bridges has taken 5 to 7 years. The engineering isn't the problem. Everything around it is. Because right now, the Key Bridge rebuild is a mega project in pieces. After firing Kiewit, Maryland is rebidding the construction in 4 separate components, hoping competition brings the price down, but risking the delays that come with starting over. State officials insist the cost stays near $5.2 billion. Skeptics in the legislature keep asking whether it's really a $7 billion project, or 9. The federal government agreed to cover 100% of the cost, which means every overrun lands on national taxpayers, and Washington is watching. The U.S. Transportation Secretary has already sent Maryland's governor a letter about the rising budget. There is one piece of good news. The ship's owner and operator agreed to pay Maryland $2.25 billion in a settlement, money that flows back into the rebuild. But even that doesn't close the gap. And every year of delay is another year that 30,000 daily drivers detour through Baltimore's tunnels. And another year the port's gateway stands unfinished. The bridge fell in seconds. Rebuilding it will take the better part of a decade. If this project succeeds, Baltimore gets more than a bridge. It gets the first major American crossing designed from day one for the age of megaships. A template for how the country protects the ports its economy runs on. If it fails, if the costs spiral, if the rebid stalls, if late 2030 becomes 2032, it becomes something else. Proof that America can lose a bridge in seconds, but can no longer build one in under a decade. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. When federal investigators studied why the Key Bridge fell, they didn't stop at Baltimore. They identified dozens of other major American bridges, spanning shipping channels across the country, that have never been assessed against a modern ship strike. The Key Bridge wasn't the only countdown, it was just the first one to hit zero.